5 stars, without a doubt. But these arbitrary stars have never been more arbitrary as I'm trying to rate this book here. In terms of entertaining, yes, 5 arbitrary stars, massively entertaining. But I don't know, it did more than entertain me. Taught me stuff, made me feel feelings I don't recognize. And it's like, I know that I'm going to have to revisit this book. When I started reading it in the beginning, I could see just how little William Stoner saw himself, because there was so little going on in his internal dialogue, so little about how he felt. None of that mattered. It wasn't really there until he went to school, and it takes a couple of years of him going to school for him to recognize that his clothes fit funny. And he thinks, do I look this way to anybody else? He starts to see himself the more he learns. And he learns about agriculture, which is what he's there for. But then he begins reading, and that bothers him. It's not like he fell in love, like he knew that that's what he wanted. It bothered him deeply, like a girl that you very much don't like. But that dislike does not mean repulsion. You know what I mean? That attraction is a fact, not a feeling. The lyrics were in him, that desire to understand was in him, and his teacher drew it out of him by flaunting the mystery in his face. Like, what, you're too stupid to understand what's going on? He did that difficult thing and told his parents, I'm not coming home to do the farm thing, mission abort, I'm changing course, I'm becoming a literary major, a teacher. And that moment, I think, if I remember correctly, was the first moment in the book where you felt him experience that emotional dissonance of wanting to do what you want to do, but experiencing the grief that it takes to stand firm while the other wheels of life, which you've been steadily turning in the opposite direction, you now must fight against. He had to ignore the pain that he was causing his parents by telling him that he was changing course and becoming a teacher. And you feel it too, like the writing style of this is very direct. It's not like Anne Rice or Diane Ackerman. It's not quite as pornographic as those two authors. This is just more like being in that 3D world. When that tennis ball is going at your face, you kind of want to duck, It puts you in his shoes, but in a more Spartan way than those other writers do. When it comes to the story itself, it's about a guy who goes to college, who becomes a teacher, and then this is his life as a teacher, or as a human. The fact that he's a teacher is kind of just an occupation. For him, a passion. You get to see him grow from being an awkward teacher who can't quite express the power of literature in a way that the kids will be able to digest his passion and not just his information, into one who's actually able to spark that kind of interest in his students like it was sparked in him. It takes a long time for him though, but nothing in this book, none of these events, none of these dreams, it's not perfect the first time, and it doesn't stay perfect. It kind of hurts, but it's just so true. As the book progressed, or I should say, as he learned more about himself, as he grows older in the book, I seemed personally to understand less and less of the subtext of what was going on. I think just because I'm at a more immature age, there was just maybe too much in the middle of the book that I didn't understand, and I felt like I knew I was going to have to revisit this book in order to understand more of what's really going on with this person's life and this person's inner world. There's just some beautiful portions in here with all these characters and their little ways of being. If you read the book, maybe you felt this way too, but near the end of the book, Stoner seems very much like an almost confident character, but not so much that he was ready to take on the world. It's just more that he's not afraid of anything. Nothing's gonna change his internal world, and nothing does at the end of the book. After his affair, I think it was between the affair and him teaching the course that he wanted to teach, he just got balls of steel from that point on. He just learned to not let anything change who he is. I don't know the feeling that I felt. I don't know what that feeling is. It was sad. I felt sad, but I wasn't sad. I was I don't know, proud of his life or something. It's sad that it wasn't more, but like, I don't know what that means. You know, what does it mean to have more out of the life that you live? There are a few passages from the book which I think exemplify the deepest core of what it's about. And look, there's way more qualified booktubers. I can tell you deeper insights about this book. I kind of just, I can't, you know. I can't really, I don't really know how, I just know that I'm moved, you know, so. I mean, I read this book a few days ago, and I'm still kind of like in that lost love K-hole. I don't think I can really spoil this book for you because what happens doesn't matter. The experience of reading it and reflecting upon yourself, that's where the entertainment is, not in the narrative itself. This is part of the portion of the story when he decides to take his freshman class, which he's been saddled with, a freshman composition class, and says, you know what, I'm going to teach my expertise in this class anyway. His expertise is something obscure, like medieval literature. So he speaks to students who are a little bit confused and worried, and he's just like, well, let me tell you how we're gonna break it down, kids. Certain accidents of history will stand in our way. There will be linguistic difficulties as well as philosophical, social as well as religious, theoretical as well as practical. Indeed, all of our past education will in some way hinder us, for our habits of thinking about the nature of experience have determined our own expectations as radically as the habits of medieval man determined his. Everyone has these ways of behaving due to the stimuli in their life, and sometimes they know why, and sometimes they don't. It's just the saddest when they don't. I guess it's even harder then to detach yourself from that pattern. But I mean, that's going into therapy and stuff. The other thing that really crushed me is on his deathbed, he's going over portions of his life in his mind, and the entire book, you know, is this feeling of, I don't know, disappointment, something close to grief whenever something happens. It's beautiful, but it's just sad. And there's a question he keeps asking himself in his mind as he dies. What did you expect? That's just a question from so many angles, with so many answers. The least of which is the desire to go again and maybe try to have a better perspective this time. Maybe expect nothing, or I don't know. You'd be lucky to have that thought the first time. You can't go wrong by picking up a copy of this book and just putting it on your shelf. This is a library copy, but I'm definitely going to purchase this book so I can continue to read it whenever I feel like it. Shout out to Scottsdale Public Library. They friended me on Goodreads, so they're instant big homies of the show. I think it's the best book I've ever read, so I think Heart of Darkness can move over. Yeah, I guess that's it, y'all.
Yeah, what's up? It's daytime. Don't get used to that. The Google YouTube machine always takes down my funny videos. So I guess no more of that. So I have to do actual outros. So there you go.